Okay. I'm back. This has been so chaotic. I'm probably not going to be scheduling a stream early again. It says unable to connect to chat now. Okay, that's great. Okay, you can see me. Great. Okay, perfect. Let me get back into what I was saying and just start over. You can only do an appeal under certain circumstances, and you have to have a reason for your appeal. So, yeah, I'm just going to start with the very basics that aren't really too necessary to know, but just they can be future knowledge. And then when people get in, I'll probably get into the substance of it. I am going to a fundraiser after I get home and change. So let me just get to this, I guess. You can appeal under certain circumstances, but the first requirement is you have to have something called a final judgment. So if you're in the middle of litigation and the case is not over, you can't appeal it unless it's something that is appealable. It has to be something final. Obviously, this case was final. The judge dismissed the case. So that gave me the opportunity to appeal. The second thing you have to then determine is under what circumstances are you appealing, right? There's opportunities to appeal when there's something like, so when the Supreme Court makes a ruling, every court below them must listen to their ruling. When the appellate court makes a ruling, the district courts must listen to the appellate court's ruling. So there's something called the judge's deference, right? So if the judge goes, what those rulings are used in your next case. That's why you cite case law. But if the judge takes his discretion and goes too far outside of his discretion in how to apply that to the current case, you can appeal on those grounds. That's not what I did, because I appealed on the grounds of what's called de novo. I said that this specific circumstance hasn't been adequately heard by the higher courts, and the higher courts need to hear it so they can make a ruling that can be applied beneath. When you want to give a standard for your appeal, you need to cite why that's an appropriate standard in your circumstances, which I did. Then I just went through the facts, basically saying, like, it's been 11 months now that we across the board, right, brokerages across the board have been limited in any information they can give. And even so, trade activity goes across brokerages, right? If I'm at Robinhood and I'm buying a share, that share could come from Fidelity, that share could come from like anywhere, right? So we don't know where these shares are actually coming from. And to get the total trade activity, you need a regulator or somebody above all things. You need somebody above all of the brokerages that is keeping track. As far as their claims of immunity, so that's another thing that you basically had to address. You have to say, like, what are the issues that you're actually asking for a review? And especially when it's something called de novo, you have to say, like, here's why it needs to be reviewed, because this specific small thing has not been actually reviewed. And this is a different circumstance than the cases we're citing. Before the case that the judge used, which is called Weissman, there was so many cases that would say that absolute immunity was appropriate, and there was cases that would say absolute immunity is not appropriate. And then Weissman said, if it's something, because they're making money and they're investors, if it's something in their private investment, they don't have immunity. That's not appropriate. But if it's something in the regulatory scheme, they have immunity. That is appropriate. But it has to be determined sometimes. There's also they state, right, in Weissman, and they state a bunch of attorneys came together to advise the judges in Weissman, and they do something called an amicus brief. And in their amicus brief on Weissman, I read it, and they stated that the reason for immunity granted by Congress is because when they want to reprimand or publicly reprimand, right? Because it's public when they're going to reprimand a broker, or if they want to fine or prevent a broker or a market maker from being a member, or they want to give their members fees or whatever, they can't be sued later for it, right? So they need to be able to do those things without getting libel charges or any other kind of lawsuit against them for what people lost money based on what the members are doing. They also need immunity from those members because they're going to be implementing regulations against these people, right? And if they prevent members from trading on the OTC or something, right, those people lose money. So they can't be sued for that purpose. That makes a lot of sense, right? But in this circumstance, something that I highlighted is they haven't reprimanded anybody, right? Has anybody been fined? Has anybody been regulated? Has anybody been, reprimanded publicly? Has FINRA put out anything saying these people did this? We're investigating fraud, but what has happened? Nothing. And how long has it been? 11 months. 11 months. So the purpose of them having immunity is so when they do those regulatory things like reprimand, impose fees, impose fines, prevent people from actually doing trade. When you prevent somebody from engaging in their business, there's something called tortious interference, and you can be sued for whatever amount of money they expected to make that they didn't make because you prevented them. So when you're a regulator, you need immunity from that, right? But they're not regulating. Like, they haven't regulated anybody. They haven't done anything. And I think that is really important to know that, what was the purpose of the ruling in Weissman. So you have to look at what was the amicus brief that was given to this. It was through the 11th Circuit as well, where I'm in my appeal right now. So when you take that in conjunction to what has happened, it leans more in our favor, in my opinion. And then I also kind of just stated how, the spin-off date occurred, right? And failures to deliver continued to occur, which means that we know that there was borrowed shares out there or options that were not, acted on. So these are contractual obligations that failed to fulfill their obligation, and it was continuing. And these were things cited by FINRA. So we know that there is a discrepancy in the amount of shares based on that data. And nothing has occurred. No reprimand, no fines, no regulations, no public statements, no form of reconciliation. I also stated that the big issue really here to me is when an organization has gone private and shareholders cannot assess their holding based on the number of shares, based on, has any form of dilution occurred? We can't really ascertain that right now. And it's a private company. It's not a publicly traded entity. Publicly traded entities are under the purview of FINRA, but a private company is not. So I think that the court needs to say, based on this circumstance, it is appropriate to sue under another circumstance, right? I'm not saying sue them for damages. We need to limit the scope to say, Judge, this is a very specific issue, right? We're going to limit it now. We're limiting it to going from public to private, or when there's a clear failure to deliver. I also stated that, whether or not we are actual members, but we are the public at large. So we're limiting it now to like different smaller sections of who should be able to sue and under what circumstances. And now what should they be able to sue for, right? So I'm saying discovery or accountings, it is very appropriate to sue, because based on those items, now we can determine whether they were acting in the regulatory capacity or they were protecting their investments, right? So they're an investor. Are they just protecting their investments? How do we know? Somebody just said, who is suing who? Girl, if you don't know, who's suing who by this point, I am a little concerned. I am suing FINRA. Oh, okay. So, Yeah. So, and then I went further to say that, there's no way for us to determine whether or not they are acting as investors or acting as their capacity as a regulator, because we don't have evidence. And now it's a private company who is, the one that has been damaged by this, and they're not under the purview of FINRA. So now FINRA is acting as a regulator over somebody who they are not entitled to regulate. The entitlement of regulation is over people who register with FINRA, right? Market makers and brokers register with FINRA, and then companies register with an IPO to be a publicly traded offering, right? To be a public trader under brokerages, and now they enter into contracts. NextBridge Hydrocarbons is a private company, so they have not entered into those contracts. So why are they unable to acquire an accounting from the entity that they purchased? So I made sure to include a portion of it is that part of the bargain when you're bargaining for a merger, right? When you're bargaining a merger, this is an agreement between two parties. They're submitting their information, they're bargaining. When FINRA allows inappropriate trading or doesn't enforce the completion of the contracts, has that damaged the bargaining power of NextBridge Hydrocarbons? Has NextBridge Hydrocarbons entered with the benefit of the bargain being this company is under a regulated public trading market that is regulated and ensures proper trading, and I'm going to receive a good item because it has been properly regulated, right? So let's say that you are buying a car, okay? What do you think Carfax does, right? Carfax tracks the ownership, the interferences. Carfax tracks that the car has been under, good ownership. It hasn't entered into car accidents. Everything is proper on the car. And then when you purchase it and you get the Carfax, now you've relied upon that Carfax to ensure that what you have purchased, you got the car that you intended to purchase, right? So you're purchasing a publicly traded company that's under a regulator. You're doing it with the expectation that the regulator is ensuring that the car that the merger is subject, right, to good trades. Now, what happens when you can't verify that? Because the regulator is failing to provide an accounting. Because the regulator has provided on their own website failures to deliver, which continue after trading has been halted, which means that during that halt, there was failures to deliver. So there's some kind of discrepancy on the numbers going on. And now they're failing 11 months later to provide that information. Brokers aren't providing that information. So it needs to be clarified through the case, right, that the judge is going to say, well, we're not going to just undo the case we already did, but we're going to probably add more caveats. And then you say, well, now, judge, we're in the middle of this mess. We have the accounting. You can modify your lawsuit after you have additional discovery to say, here's what happened, or possibly file a new suit, right, to say, here's what happened. These people are entitled to this, or this is who failed to deliver, right? Certain aspects of the lawsuit would have to continue after the accounting is provided. But, 11 months, that's crazy. And I think that it helps that it's been 11 months to an appellate court to say, we're the ones that gave them the immunity through Weissman. We gave them the immunity under these understandings of they need to be able to prevent trades. They need to be able to remove members. They need to be able to reprimand publicly without defamation suits from companies or tortious interference. But when they have not regulated, they have not reprimanded, but now there's a huge issue with the public at large. Now we have another issue. Also, FINRA was created under the Maloney Act and the Exchange Act, right? The Exchange Act says in its mission, it is intended to prevent that its whole purpose is to stimulate the economy by fostering a regulatory scheme that allows public investors to confidently invest in the market. So a fiduciary duty is the highest duty that can be imposed by law. And it is a duty that says you can trust in me and I will be handling your money in a way that is only for your benefit, not even to benefit myself. So they said we don't have a fiduciary duty over the public at large. That's what FINRA said. And, in the appeal, I have said there is no standing to say that their job is not to the public when their very inception says that it is to enforce the confidence of the public markets to impact the economy. Remember, these laws, the Exchange Act and the Maloney Act, came out in 1934 and 1938. What happened in 1929? The Great Depression. The Great Depression happened in 1929. So in 1934, when we hit another low, what did they want? People back in the stock market, right? People were like, nope, they were getting things that were worth no money. There was a bunch of scammers going and like selling them fake stocks. And people were like, we're never going to do this. Like, oh, the stock market failed in America. It was considered a failed market. They said, we are going to introduce this regulatory scheme. Part of that scheme is now regulators like SROs, like FINRA, who have a regulatory duty. And that was ultimately, all of it was because we need the public investing in the market and we need to impact the total economy of this entire country by having the public trust in the market. So you can't say that FINRA has no duty to the public because this entire thing was meant to bring the public in. So that was another fact that I used because I thought that was really important in kind of bringing back they're saying they have no, so there's different laws, right? So I said, under this law, we want so you have to, when you take an appeal, you have to do it two ways. Number one, what did the judge actually say and what did he rely on? The judge actually relied on immunity. He actually relied on we're not a member of FINRA, so we don't have the fiduciary. He actually relied on that under these circumstances, FINRA should still have immunity because we can't prove it was under their private investing, right? So I brought up issues based on those things. And then we have the second part that you have to think about in an appeal, which is what am I actually going for? What are my actual claims? And how can I marry these issues that I brought up with my actual law that I'm actually claiming? So part of it was in that Weissman case. Here's why you, 11th Circuit, actually decided it. Here's what you relied on in deciding it, right? So that's why the immunity should be dismantled a little bit. Here's why it should be dismantled and applied to us. Because we asked for an accounting, right? And they have a fiduciary duty. So the federal law says a fiduciary duty is appropriate. Here's another thing. There's something called a pure discovery bill, a bill of pure discovery, which is a different kind of case. And it's not even considered a civil litigation case. So immunity doesn't even apply. So here's another reason, Judge, why you should dismantle their immunity a little bit more. Here's another reason, Judge, because they should have to answer to the public at large because the birth of the regulatory organization, the birth of the SRO is in the Maloney Act and in the Exchange Act, which clearly state their mission is to create and foster public trust in the stock market. So here's another reason to now dismantle it some more. So you have to take this big concept from the judge and break it down and bring it back in some more. Who's behind the scam? I don't know what that means, but what else was I going to say is basically that's kind of the purpose of the case. The Bill of Pure Discovery straight up says that it's not a civil litigation in the case that was ruled. And so that means that it's not subject to immunity. So I said, Judge, if they're not going to give us on accounting, they should give it to us on this. And then I just went in and said they should not be entitled to immunity. This circumstance has gotten so far out of control and so far beyond their purview because it's a private company that it just no longer meets the the purpose of the relief, it doesn't meet public policy. It doesn't meet the intention of the government in giving them this power. You have to remember, this is still an organization that makes money. This organization makes money, right? This is not a charity, right? The CEO of FINRA makes more money than the president of the United States, right? Genocide senile Joe, okay? He makes more money than this old 90-year-old man. So I think that it's important to say what benefits the public at large here, because that was number one. Public policy, the laws need to uphold public policy, right? And the laws are our way of navigating society through the legal system. So we need to make sure that our rulings are going to do what we need for society. Number two, the actual birth of the Exchange Act was for public confidence. Number three, Nextbridge Hydrocarbons is not publicly traded. They are not a member of FINRA. So FINRA's impact on them cannot be understated, right? Cannot be understated. Number four, we won't even know if it was for a protection of their investment power or if it was for a purely regulatory interest until we get a look at the accounting. We need to get our eyeballs on it and see who had failures to deliver, what was going on, are the shares diluted, right? And who did it, so we can follow the breadcrumbs. And then we can say we need discovery from that person. Let's say it was Goldman Sachs. Now we get discovery from Goldman Sachs and we find out it was a person who was on the board at FINRA. Well, now it's an investment scheme. It is not a regulatory scheme. It is to protect the investment of this person who screwed over their own investments at the expense of this person, right? Or at the advisement of this person who worked in their role of FINRA to protect this. So you need to follow the breadcrumbs. And how do we do that without the accounting? And which broker can provide us an accounting that encompasses all brokers? Nobody. But the regulator, who has immunity so that they can regulate and they can reprimand and they can fine and they can sanction, has not fined, sanctioned, reprimanded, regulated. Nobody's been punished in MMTLP. Nobody. So what's going on here, right? Like, they didn't do what they got immunity to do. So why are we giving them immunity over the people who have suffered in this scenario? I think that there's been a lot of like inner community issues. I've been off Twitter for most of the month because, personally, I've found it pretty somewhat disheartening. I lost a lot of followers, but I'm not entitled to followers, right? I'm not entitled to anybody following me. I'm not entitled to anybody. Somebody said there's charity organizations that make a salary. FINRA is not making a fair salary. Yeah, there are charity organizations making a salary, but FINRA is not a charitable organization. They are an investor, a for-profit organization. Anyway, I've been off of Twitter a lot because, number one, it's very hard for me to like be on Twitter, and I can't sit here and fight everybody's opinions, right? If somebody doesn't agree with, like, I'm not going to give anybody an opinion and tell them think this, right? I will share things and you can see it and form your own opinions and do your own research. And that goes as far as the issue of ongoing in Gaza, and that's also as far as the issue in MMTLP, right? I will never tell somebody how to think. I will tell them, here's what I think, or here's how I would analyze it, but do your own research. Here are the tools that I can share with you. Make your own decisions. I would never. People keep asking me, should I transfer to AST? People are emailing me, asking me, and I always tell them, you need to do what you need to do. I cannot tell anybody what to do. It's going to be based on your circumstances. If you're asking, if I don't transfer to AST, am I going to be completely screwed forever? No, I am not an AST. You will not be screwed forever. The process may be longer for you than the people with AST. That is true. That is probably almost a fact that it will be longer for you. But do I think that you are going to be forsaken in all of this? No. If you're with AST, do I think you'll be forsaken? No. I think that if you're with AST, you are a little bit more locked in. right? Because the final thing you would do is transfer to AST for NextBridge hydrocarbons. Now you're in NextBridge. Before that, you have some avenues, right, of waiting to see how it shakes out and if there's some kind of settlement in exchange for obligations, because I believe the QSIPs are obligation trackers. They're tracking who are they obligated to fulfill their NextBridge shares or their NextBridge entitlement. Sometimes you can exchange an obligation. It's like a note, right? How many of you have a mortgage on your house? You sign a promissory note. Those QSIPs serve kind of like promissory notes. You can do a settlement at some point, possibly. But you can ultimately end up at AST, right? So you can go with AST now. You can write it out and see what other options arise. That is what I believe. Obviously, this is a new circumstance that has not been precedented before. But do I think that if you don't transfer to AST, you are completely out of luck? No. No, I don't. Somebody sent me a tweet today and they were like, if you don't transfer to AST, you're going to be screwed forever. That is just absolutely incorrect. I don't know who tweeted that, and I don't understand the full background of it because, like I was mentioning, I have been off Twitter. I don't like the infighting. I don't like the drama. I'm not here to get followers. I'm not here to tell people what to do. I just do my work. I just file my appeal. I explain it because I think that everybody has a right to know my opinion because I am filing, and everybody has a right to know what is going on, and everybody's worried. And if there's something I can do to explain it to people in a legal way, I love to do that. I would love to give people any knowledge I have and use the tools I have to share. I will advise people who ask me. If anybody emails and asks me, I always try to reply, right? I will always reply. I will always share my opinion anytime I'm asked. I will give legal analysis anytime I'm asked. But I am not seeking anybody. I'm not going out to find and tell you what to do, or I'm not going to go out and tell you you guys need to listen to me. I will never do that. I will never do that. Like I just find that insane, honestly. So I just stay out of the drama. I'm not seeking people out. I'm not trying to build a following. I'm not getting mad at people for unfollowing me. I had about 10,000 followers and now I'm down to 5,000 something. I lost a lot of followers. That is true. But I was not entitled to followers. Nobody has to follow me. And I'm not allowed to get mad when people choose not to follow me. That's their right. It's your account. It's your life. Like I don't get to be mad at people for choosing not to follow me. That's just insane to me. That is beyond reasonableness. I think that what we need, like what I can do is inform people. I can advise people based on my own stuff. I can just do my work, and that's what I do. I'm not in on the, I'm not in all the drama. I don't know what's going on with it. I don't care to because it has nothing to do with my work. I'm just going to do my work. And I'm just going to advise people based on the questions that they ask me, and I'm just going to like do my thing and move on. I'm not going to get into it. But I don't know the full like understanding of whatever that tweet was. So whoever it was, I'm sorry. I don't know the full background. But I can only say that I saw something, and you know what? Let me read it really fast. So it says, sorry, I'm pulling it up. To transfer to AST or not, here is a fact you need to know. Be careful when you use the word fact. If you hold contra QSIP placeholders at your broker, you do not own NextBridge Hydrocarbon shares. That is true. If NextBridge Hydrocarbon sells, you could be stuck holding an FTD. Don't know. That's not a very accurate. That's not a very accurate presentation of the facts. So I would say don't call that a fact because it's not. Where is your precedent for this? Where is your, right? FTDs can and will be sent to the NSCC obligations warehouse indefinitely. What is the point of an obligations warehouse if they just hold stuff indefinitely? What is their purpose? If you are an obligations warehouse and something is sent to you, Is it not your job to process the obligation? What else do you do? If that's the case, if they don't actually do anything, if it's not their job to process an obligation, why have an obligations warehouse, right? Why not just send it to the moon? So I think no. Okay, sorry, I'm gonna try and read. So I don't know. I think that whoever made that tweet, I believe was in good intention, right? I believe everybody's looking for a solution and trying to help each other. I really, really believe it. But so I don't have anything against that person. I'm sorry, I'm not sure who it was. Let me look at their name. Danielle. I have no issues with Danielle, and I don't know who she is, and I'm sure she's very nice. But I think that her intentions are she wants to advise people because she is worried because it has been 11 months. But that doesn't make what she said true, unfortunately. I'm going to read through some of your stuff. I have a fundraiser I'm going to today for PCRF. It's the Palestine Children's Relief Fund. They are raising money to help in Gaza. Right now, there is a genocide ongoing in Gaza. I know that people have different opinions and they're going to tell me, condemn this, condemn that. Where's your American flag? Okay, I'm an American attorney. I literally navigate the legal system of this country. This country is so important to me. This country has shaped my education. This country has done a lot for me. I love being an American, but America is not the melting pot. America is not a candle and it's not soup. Okay? America is salad. There's lettuce, tomato, cucumber. When you take a bite of salad, you need all of the flavors. You need the salad dressing. I'm a Palestinian American. So I'm one piece. I'm the tomato. There's Black Americans, they're the lettuce. There's white Americans, they're the cucumber. You need all of us, okay? That's what makes America America. So I am an American attorney. Don't ever discredit the fact that I am, because I was born in Swedish American hospital, okay? Like in America. So that to me is something that I just won't stand with. So whoever tweeted that to me, I just didn't like that. But then also, it is a genocide ongoing. You have civilians, okay, who are being bombed en masse. You have the death of over 12,000 confirmed identified dead. People stuck under rubble in unconfirmed another 10,000 or more because they can't confirm their identities because they're still under rubble. Now the numbers are over 20,000, right? So, and I think 40 something percent of the population there is babies. So if you want to sit there, or children under 17, and then of that, the majority of that is children under 5. So if you want to sit here and talk about going after a military, it's more complicated than that, because Hamas, right? They're a militant group of civilians, and there are a governing group under an occupier who is the superior group. So it's like the federal government is Israel, is like our federal government, right? Like our Joe Biden, our genocide Joe. And then under that, you have like the state or municipality governments, and that's like Hamas. So when they say a Hamas hospital, it's because it's under the city government. So it's not actually like a training center. Like, all of that has been ridiculous. It's all been debunked, and then they have to delete their little propaganda tweets. The whole thing has been ridiculous. But the only thing that has not been funny in this whole thing is how many people are being killed en masse. Palestinian children are being denied food and water. I'm going to a fundraiser dinner tonight to help raise money for these children to get life-saving aid. It's with Palestinian Children's Relief Fund. Steve Susaby, he's an American that like goes to Gaza every year to like help raise money for these kids. And they sometimes bring Americans here and like do surgeries for them and then send them back. Or sorry, not Americans. They sometimes bring children from Palestine here to like do life-saving surgeries. And then once they've healed, they send them back to Palestine. So if you guys are inclined to donate to pious projects, I always support pious projects, or Palestinian Children's Relief Fund. I'm going there tonight for a fundraiser. So I will put their information. I think that it's really imperative for us to know what is the actual law and what actually is being applied, even in this circumstance, right? So there is a Geneva Convention that says an occupier cannot attack the organizations that they're occupying. we have an occupier with a full military and the full military force of the West, right? And they are attacking the civilians that they occupy. That is against international law. Carpet bombing against international law, white phosphorus against international law. So we're seeing all these things happen, and it's the place where that I love, right? I love going to Palestine. There's something different. When I was a kid one time and we got there for the summer, I literally kissed the street floor. I was just so happy to be there, and my dad was like, "You're gross. Go wash." But I just love it so much, and to see what is happening is really hard for me. And my family is all there, contacting me because they can't post on social media, or the military is going door to door and checking on them to see if they're posting on their social media or if they're messaging people and talking about what's going on to them. And it's really scary and it's really hard. So it is, I think, very important for people to realize and do your own research, look it up. The Israeli military even attacked the United States before. Look up the USS Military, and those military men were killed and told, don't tell the PR, right? You're not allowed to talk to journalists. And there was even an uncovered document that said, why don't we just sink the ship? 300 US naval soldiers on that ship. So this thing goes beyond our understandings that we have, and it's our duty to look it up and figure out what's going on. And it's our duty to enact new policies and new law. Part of that is case law, and cases like this where you say, hey, the government can't just get away with whatever, and private companies like FINRA can't just get away with whatever because they think the government is allowing it, right? But you also need to say our government can't just get away with whatever, like threatening to sink a U.S. naval ship with U.S. Navy soldiers on it. Absolutely insane. My grandfather was in the Navy at that time. So it's just unfathomable. And I think that people need to do the research for themselves and really look into it and say, what is going on here? And why are we taking it so far? And it has nothing to do with Semitism, because Jewish Voice for Peace is one of the largest organizations that talks about how Israel does not follow Jewish values. And I think that it's important for people to educate themselves. But I also think that, this is our country, and we are in charge of this country, and it makes a duty upon us to say these laws don't work for me, this representation doesn't work for me, and I need to find a way to change it. There is something called a peaceful revolution, right? To overthrow your government. Voting, representatives, new laws. This FINRA lawsuit, right, is a peaceful way to overthrow what Congress enacted. Congress said immunity. We're overthrowing it peacefully through the courts. There are ways to do it, and it is our duty to do it. When we are not being accurately represented, it is our duty to say, I need accurate representation that represents my beliefs. I don't believe in genocide. I believe that Palestinians deserve to live. I believe that the Holy Land is so beautiful and so holy and so amazing and just a peaceful place, and it deserves to stay peaceful. And it's up to us to comport with all that. Sorry, I know that I just kind of went on a tangent on something a little bit more political, but I think that it's important for us to realize how much power we hold, and that some of that is through the courts, and it's something that we need to, we need to really recognize and gain that power back. We need to retake it, and we need to say, this does not represent me. Call our representatives and say, this does not represent me. And you guys have really actually done an amazing job. I've never seen people mobilize about that in the stock market quite the way that Mmtlp has. For people to organize in that way about finances and financial power over the stock market, you guys have really, honestly, it's just been amazing. And to say, this does not represent me. And maybe even now that elections are going to begin in a lot of local state governments, right? So in your local state government, not just federal Congress, but in your local Congress, there's something called blue sky laws. Call those representatives and say, this does not represent me. And if you want to run again, I need to know how you're going to change that to represent me. This happened to me. Are you going to use a state law to say they don't have immunity from accountings? Because we need an accounting. They don't have immunity when the public company goes private. These are two ways that anybody should be able to agree. You don't have immunity from providing an accounting. Why? Why should you have an immunity from providing an accounting? You're not reprimanding anybody. You're not creating tortious interference with a business practice. You're not getting defamation. These are the reasons immunity is created. Why should you be immune from an accounting ever, right? Number two, if a publicly traded company goes private, you do not have immunity. These are things that we can call our Congress people and say, here is something solid. I'm not just telling you I'm upset. I'm telling you, here's the solution that I want to see. I want to see this. Make laws in favor of that. Under your state representatives are going to be more receptive because it's a smaller audience, right? They're in districts within the state. Your federal representatives will also be receptive because the House of Representatives has so many people. Senate is a little bit harder to reach because there's only 2 per state, but it is important. And I think that if every person calls these people and says, not just I'm upset, here's what happened and I need answers. You need to enact a law that says accountings, you don't have immunity. You need to enact a law that says when a publicly traded company goes private, that private company is entitled to an accounting from the regulator. Hold the regulator accountable. They're the ones that get free leeway to invest in a trading platform that they're regulating. They get that power. They have the responsibility to provide the accounting. Okay, now I'm going to read some of these comments, and I have to go because I have that fundraiser. So sorry. Let me see. Sorry, I feel like I'm very preachy today, which I don't like to do, but I think that it's really important. And okay, don't forget to the new stream. Let's go. Where did Rosa get the white scarf go? Oh, no, it's not AI. We love you, Rosa. Thank you, guys. Mark Bastille is a grifter. I think that when somebody's going on and telling you, hey, I need you to explain, I need you guys to follow me, everybody needs to follow me, I just don't see the purpose in that. If you're a lawyer and your job is to explain and do your job as a lawyer, just do it. Why do you need people to follow you for doing it? That's not, your job is just to do it. What you don't need to gain followers in the process. Just do it or don't do it. You don't want to do it, that's fine. Just don't do it. But don't sit there and gripe and moan about it. No form of recognition. Sorry, I don't know what that was in regards to. One way or another, they must be reconciled. Good evening. Who is suing who? If you know, you know. LOL. Thanks. Love you too, Ryan, man. Rosa Love from Ireland. I love Ireland. I was just in Scotland, and it was, what do you need in regards of research? Or, sorry, in regards of evidence. I'm not sure what that's in reference to. Sorry. Has flamethrower helped you out any? Not really, because people are reaching out to me on Twitter, and I'm just not responding. Because I'm not really on Twitter. I'm checking like every once in a while because it's very hard for me when there's a lot of drama and I can't keep up because I just have so much. Scallop season. For a situation close to home, the company ensured that the entity would fail and had the entity had a better environment, it could thrive. It's regulated unfairly. I agree, it is regulated unfairly. We all deserve a piece of black acre. Hear, hear. Everybody deserves a piece, but not at the expense of the entity. Fiduciary failed in this regard. It's not at the expense of the entity. It's at expense of the contracted party who failed to deliver the obligation. Whoever had a failure to deliver is at their expense. Returning stock markets. Does FINRA have fiduciary duty? So part of the argument is we are stating FINRA doesn't. So they're saying FINRA only has a fiduciary duty to brokers and market makers, and we are saying FINRA has a fiduciary duty to us as well. Thank you so much. Certainly following that department. Public trust is supposedly the most important actions. Yeah, I agree. I don't think that they're fulfilling on that. We should do the same, refuse to invest any further. I was thinking at one point everybody should just pull their money out of the stock market, but then, we'll have a bigger problem probably. Who's behind the scam? I don't know. Is Alpine versus FINRA case relevant here regarding constitutional position of FINRA? I don't know, because we are coming at it from a perspective of entitlement to an accounting, which is we're limiting our scope in a way to make a judge easy to rule for us. If we attack FINRA as a collateral against all of the entire entity as a whole, that's a whole different argument. And if they were successful, then we can say, yeah, this is even an illegitimate company, right? So that is one thing, but it's been ruled before that they are legitimate, and it just becomes a bigger mess. Can you talk about people who say they're going to get screwed if you don't transfer? I already talked about that. If they're breaking, but it's law, they are breaking their own law. Would you work for free? No. No, it's not about working for free. Charities, people still get salaries, but it is a for-profit organization. That means it's not a charitable organization. That means that they are doing everything to make profits for themselves. When you're doing it as a charity, you're not aggressive in the market because you're not keeping the money. It's not building you anything. It's just going to a public charity, which a percentage of every nonprofit organization must be disseminated to the public charity every year. You can't just hold the investments. So a for-profit organization, that's not the case. You disseminate it to the shareholders or to the owners on the board. They're collecting all the income. So it's for them, it's advantageous and to be as aggressive as possible to increase profits. A nonprofit, it's not like that. You're just increasing the money to do public charities. You're not aggressive because it's not benefiting your own pocket. So that is the difference. It's not about working for free or paying salaries. Yes, they pay salaries, but they pay aggressively high salaries because it's based on investment and income. It is nonprofits and for-profit. These are two highly distinct. There's such a high distinction. It is so important to know that this is a for-profit organization. It makes it 100 times nefarious. It makes it such a huge difference. Aloha. Controlled demolition, blockchain, right? Their initial purpose isn't effective. Too much conflict of interest. Thank you. It's nice to explain. Thank you. I'm glad. I hope that you guys are able to understand the way I explain. Sometimes I feel like I get too technical. What happens if the money is with a fiduciary and they won't release it, even if their own law states they have to? That's a whole that depends on a lot of things. You would have to ask for an accounting in that circumstance. It would be given to you. And then you would have to sue based if they're a trustee or whatever kind of fiduciary they are. They'd be liable for different things. The fact that the regulator is allowed to engage in what I'm describing is insane. Yeah. History in the making. I hope so. I hope we can make some kind of change. Houston Wade. That's funny. Talk about AST. I did. I need someone to give me a crash course. I also need international probate. Any suggestions? Depends on your state. Rosa, please don't show all your cards. You're giving them time. No, I mean what I described. I already put it in my appeal. They saw it, so it is what it is. People because he's done stuff for brain. People on. This should not have been trading in the first place. That is true. I would love to see if somebody gets that copy of who traded. If that discovery gets granted, I would love to see it. I would love. Somebody said my followers list got shorted. Do I think Drew is a bad actor or a bad guy? Listen, Andrew has proven to me he's not a hedge fund. So I know that people have different accusations against different people. At first, everybody was saying he was a hedge fund, telling me don't trust him. So I made him prove to me he was not. After that, he's just been nice to me, and I don't, like, he's been nice, he's been friendly, he's reached out to me, he reached out about my family in Palestine, like, all this stuff. So I can't say he's been a bad guy or a bad actor. I don't know the drama that everybody's getting into on Twitter. It's not in my lane. My lane is not the community organizing lane or, like, the pushing for the senators lane. My lane is the legal lane. Focus on my legal stuff, explain legal stuff, focus on that. Like, that is where I have just, like, stayed in it. I'm not into all the drama and groups and, like, the due diligence people. They help me in my lane, but not in there. So I don't know what people's opinions are. I don't know what's going on. I don't even know the latest. Like, I don't know who hates who now. And I don't know. I don't even know half people's real names. Like, Junk Savvy, I swear to God, I don't know her real name. She's super sweet. She's always checking on me. I even have her phone number, but I don't even know her real name. So, I mean, I can't speak to different arguments or disagreements. I can only say everybody has been nice to me. Except for that guy Ramen Soups, but even he's not been that bad to me. And except for that guy who told me I'm not American or something like that. Thank you guys for all the appreciation and nice comments. No, I'm scrolling too fast. Gas stoves for life. 100%. The time frame on the appeal process is they're going to have, I think, 40 days to respond to my brief with their own brief, and then I get another 30 days to respond to their brief. So then after that, and I asked the judge for a hearing because I think a hearing is important because of how complicated this is. So I did ask the judge for a hearing. So that's the timeline. I keep seeing a couple like that. They would be in a lawsuit and they would lose. You don't have to be an AST to get a dividend. 100%, you do not. Whoever owes you, whatever your broker is, they will be obligated to give you the dividend. So that's not true. Thank you, Crispy Chicken. Hugs back to you. How does that get to the kids? So PCRF, from what I understand, they have different organizations so I know exactly how Pious Projects does it is they work with people inside Gaza, like somebody who owns a grocery store, right? And they'll tell him, disseminate $1,000 worth of groceries and we'll get you money. Some of them are like people who live in Gaza, but like one guy also owns a business in like South Korea. And in South Korea, he gets a lot of his stuff that he sells, right? So he sells like toys and stuff and he gets them from South Korea. So they'll send the money to his account in South Korea and then he'll use that money and give the groceries. I know that's how Pious Projects does it. PCRF, they work with hospitals and they'll like get hospitals to donate medical equipment and they'll send it over there, or they'll provide medicines and stuff like that and they'll get it over there through the humanitarian quarters or whatever. And they bring a lot of Palestinian children to America to do surgeries for them. So they get special visas, and that's how it helps their program because they bring them here, get them a place to stay while they're getting recovery. A lot of them are like life-saving surgeries. I met one of the kids one time. It was really heartbreaking, honestly. So you're an attorney. I am. I don't know what's going on. What happens after the appeal? I already answered that. Failure to deliver. Yeah. We feel for you and send your love. Thank you, guys. What up, lettuce? Who is the croutons? I don't know. Asian Americans. Thank you, Andrew. Unbelievable. We need to help in any way possible. It's been really bad. I identify as honey mustard. I think all Mmtlp are worried. Looks like 2024. Probably. I don't govern a damn thing. Is there anything we can say to move AST? No food or water. It is super, super bad. Thank you, Insane. Yeah, Andrew, go ahead and you can even send it straight to PCRF, but if not, if you send it to me, I'll just give it to them today when I go. Don't talk about sinking ship. Yeah, well, they started sending hospital ships, and those they're like ships, hospitals. Some of them have been prevented from reaching, so it's just been really bad. I have the actual kids who are being held hostage along with myself in Gaza. Are you being held hostage in Gaza? How are you on YouTube? What? Somebody's trying to convince me to run for public office and really trying to convince me to get into politics. And I have not committed, but people are been really, really pushing me. Oh, Andrew, I'll donate it. Andrew, if you send it to me, or you can just donate it directly to PCRF. But if you send it to me, today when I go, I will give it to them. I'll take out cash. I block too many people? Wait, go and listen to the first. Aaron, are you saying I block too many people? I haven't blocked a lot of people. What if the environment was set up by the occupation to fail and not deliver? I don't know what that means, but the occupation is designed to kind of weaken the people who live under occupation. That's why they're not allowed to have their own governing process or military, because the military gives you strength. What's a timeline on your appeal? I think they have about 30 days to respond, maybe 40, and then I have about 30 or 40 to respond. Let me see. If NextBridge sells and we don't move to AST, can we get screwed out of whatever the sale yields? Nope. I haven't received $1. I'm going private. Understand. You're great. Thank you. Copy and paste is wrong. I don't know what copy and paste is wrong about. Gas stations, gas stoves for life. Do I have a group of people who I consult? So I do. I like look stuff up. I'll call people and ask. I know somebody who's like a big broker, and I also speak with people who were like the student aides and stuff for my securities professor who now works at the SEC, and I'll kind of ask people like that and get whatever answers I can. Everyone that purchases owed the same. That is 100% true. That Venmo account isn't yours. There's a Venmo account that's mine. I think it's just my first and last name or something. They're jealous of Drew's success. It should have a picture of me. Blah. Some bot is flooding the chat. I don't know. Copy hasn't done anything but boyfriend Mark. Guys, don't bring no drama. Let Copy say what he wants. Nobody cares. Watch, he'll block me too. I heard the wife uses Venmo. Should I be worried? What wife? Can this ever get 2 days again? That depends on what we get. So once we get an accounting, that's when we start asking for resolutions, right? You can't ask for resolution until you see what the problem is and you have evidence of the problem. So first we ask for the accounting. We see what the accounting has to say, and then we start saying, here's where you messed up, and let's start looking for solutions. And I think that somebody's asking, does that mean that we will get 2 days of trading back, yes or no? That depends on what we can, that depends on when we have the accounting, what we can say, how we can prove it, and how we can prove that this is the course of best action, and how we can prove that this benefits the shareholders the most. But if it was to happen and people were with AST, we can tell the judge, when you make this order forcing them to provide trading, we're also going to ask that you force them to allow anybody in AST who wants to come back to come back. So those are things that you can ask for, and you can see if a judge will approve. Again, you can never guarantee what a judge is going to approve or not, but it's something we can ask for. Okay, guys, well, I have to go because this fundraiser is coming. Thank you all so much for joining, and I really appreciate it. I know I've kind of been out of the, been out of it. It's been like a very difficult month for my family. So please keep them in mind, keep them in your prayers. Think of them, think of the people in Gaza, whether you agree with them or not, whether you're pro-Palestine or whatever. People are dying, right? So if there's a way you can aid that and prevent that, or if there's a way that you can contact your local representatives and say, hey, people are dying and this doesn't comport with my personal beliefs. So we as Americans who have power, we are funding this, right? So they are sending money. 14.3 billion was the last proposal, right? Stop sending money to it if we don't agree with it. That is the very least that we can do. So that is, what I really believe is what everybody can participate in, right? It may not be your problem, or you may not really have an opinion, or you may even be pro-Israel, but even still, I don't believe that any one of these people could be okay with the way that it's going on. So I think that, we can say, hey, let's just not fund this because this doesn't go with American values. And from there, let it shake out on its own if that's what you believe. But I think that, we should definitely not be adding fuel to the fire in the form of financing it. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I am going to PCRF. If you guys want to donate to PCRF or Pious Projects, I will put their information in my chat. Andrew just sent me $100 to donate to PCRF. And I will say Andrew is a Jew. So if you want to sit there and talk about Jews versus Muslims or whatever, it's not about that. Obviously, everybody, people probably just think that we need to stop letting babies die. So I think that even a Jew like Andrew, who doesn't think that this is anti-Semitic, I think that we can all agree then that it's not. Thank you guys so much for joining. And everybody who's telling me thank you, because you guys are just, honestly, the support. Sometimes I really, this has been a really, really hard month for me personally. It really has. It's like, every day I find myself, feeling broken. And this appeal was just such a huge task for me. And it was really hard for me to get to the point of drafting such a large document and getting my thoughts together when I felt so broken, honestly. But just knowing how many people are all together, banded together, calling senators, bringing themselves to mobilize, that truly, you guys truly inspired me to do more. I swear to God. And it's really it's hard to explain it. And I'm not trying to sound preachy, but really, when I really felt like I just cannot do this, I think about all the people who are calling every day, creating templates, organizing spaces, doing all these different things in an attempt to better the cause. And I was like, here's what I can do to contribute. And it really, your guys' support really honestly has made a world of the difference for me. So thank you guys so much, and I will try to do another video moderately soon. Bye-bye, guys.